My name is Elysia, and I am 23 years old. Standing on that graduation stage, I scanned the audience for familiar faces. My heart sank as I realized the 5 seats I had reserved remained empty. While classmates waved to proud parents and siblings, I swallowed back tears clutching my diploma. For years, I worked toward this moment, imagining my family cheering me on. Instead, they chose my sister Sarah's barbecue party. The worst part, when I walked off stage, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Mom and 36 missed calls from Sarah. If you have ever felt forgotten by your family, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe. My story might help you realize you are not alone in this struggle. Growing up in a family of 5 should have meant feeling supported, but I always felt like the forgotten middle child. My father, Roger, was a successful attorney at a prestigious law firm in Boston. He worked long hours but always made time for special family events, especially those involving my younger sister. My mother, Helen, balanced being a homemaker with organizing community events. She was the perfect suburban mom, at least for my siblings. My sister Sarah, 19, was the undeniable star of our family. With her natural beauty, outgoing personality, and flair for drama, she commanded attention in every room. My parents doted on her, attending every dance recital and theater performance. My younger brother, Dylan, 17, was the athletic golden boy, excelling in football and track. Dad never missed his games, and Mom was the loudest cheerleader in the stands. Then there was me, stuck in the middle. Not quite as charismatic as Sarah, not quite as athletically gifted as Dylan. I was the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who never caused trouble. Unfortunately, in my family, not causing trouble meant being overlooked. The pattern started early. When I was 7, my parents forgot to pick me up from piano lessons. I waited 2 hours before my instructor called them. They had been shopping for Sarah's birthday party and simply lost track of time. When I was 12, they missed my science fair where I won first place because Dylan had a scrimmage game the same day. The excuses were always reasonable, but the message was clear: I was never the priority. I tried everything to earn their recognition. I maintained a perfect GPA throughout high school. I joined debate club, volunteered at the local hospital, and even learned photography because Dad once mentioned he liked it. Nothing seemed to work. Sarah would throw a tantrum about something trivial, and suddenly my achievements faded into the background. My relationship with Sarah was especially complicated. She wasn't deliberately malicious, but she was accustomed to being the center of attention and worked hard to maintain that position. If I received any praise, she would quickly find a way to redirect the spotlight. When I got accepted to university with a scholarship, she announced she had been scouted by a modeling agency at the same dinner. The pattern continued into my college years. I chose to attend a university 3 hours away, partly for the excellent psychology program and partly for the breathing room from my family dynamics. I called home, regularly visited on major holidays, and tried to maintain connections despite the distance. 2 months before my graduation, Sarah dropped a bombshell during our weekly family video call. She announced she would be hosting a barbecue party on May 15th, the exact date of my graduation ceremony. I had reminded everyone about my graduation date months in advance. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "that is the day of my graduation. You all promised to be there." "Oh," Sarah replied with a dismissive wave, "I totally forgot, but I have already invited everyone, and Jason's parents are coming from California." Jason was her boyfriend of 3 months. I looked at my parents' faces on the screen, waiting for them to speak up. Mom looked uncomfortable while Dad seemed distracted by something off camera. Well, Mom finally said, "Maybe we can work something out." "What time is your ceremony, Elysia?" "It starts at 11 in the morning. I told you this already," I replied, trying to hide my disappointment. "And the barbecue is at 4, Sarah chimed in. "We can do both." Dad nodded, finally paying attention. "That sounds reasonable. We will attend your graduation in the morning, Elysia, and then head to Sarah's event afterward." I wanted to believe them, but a knot formed in my stomach. Something told me this would not work out as promised. Still, I clung to hope that for once, just once, I would be the priority. My college experience was drastically different from what my parents imagined. While they thought I was enjoying the typical university life, the reality was far more challenging. I had received a full academic scholarship that covered tuition, but it did not cover living expenses. Despite my parents' comfortable financial situation, they had been clear that I needed to handle those costs myself. It builds character, Dad had said, when I brought up the subject before freshman year. I worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. During the day, I assisted in the psychology department, helping professors with research and administrative tasks. At night and on weekends, I waited tables at a restaurant near campus. Between classes, work, and studying, I rarely got more than 5 hours of sleep. There were countless nights I stayed up until 3 in the morning finishing papers or preparing for exams, only to wake up at 7 for an early class. My roommate freshman year, Olivia, became concerned about my schedule. "You are going to burn out," she warned after finding me asleep at my desk for the 3rd time that week. But Olivia also became my closest friend and biggest supporter. When I could not afford textbooks one semester, she helped me find digital versions and shared her own materials. When I missed meals because of work, she would save food for me. Eventually, we moved into a tiny off-campus apartment together to save on housing costs. During my sophomore year, I connected with Professor Jessica Winters, who became my academic mentor and a crucial source of support. She recognized my passion for psychology and my work ethic. "You have a natural talent for understanding human behavior," she told me after reading one of my research papers. "But you also have the rare quality of empathy combined with analytical thinking." Under her guidance, I developed a focus on family dynamics and emotional resilience. The irony was not lost on me that I was studying the very patterns that shaped my own family life. For my senior thesis, I conducted research on the psychological effects of parental favoritism on siblings. Professor Winters helped me navigate the Institutional Review Board and secure funding for my research. My thesis received the department's highest honors. The committee was so impressed that they invited me to speak as the student representative at the graduation ceremony. When Professor Winters told me the news, I burst into tears of joy. That evening, I called my parents, eager to share this recognition. Mom answered, and I could hear Sarah talking loudly in the background about prom dress options. "Mom, I have amazing news," I said, my voice trembling with excitement. "That is nice, honey. Can you hold on a second?" She put the phone down, and I heard her discussing fabric colors with Sarah. After nearly 2 minutes, she returned. "Sorry about that. What were you saying?" I swallowed my disappointment and repeated my news, trying to recapture my enthusiasm. "I have been selected as the student speaker for graduation. Only one student from the entire graduating class gets this honor." "Oh, that is wonderful," Mom said, but her tone lacked the excitement I had hoped for. "Your father will be proud. Do you want to talk to Sarah? She just found the perfect prom dress." I declined, and ended the call shortly after telling myself it did not matter. I would show them at graduation. They would finally see what I had accomplished. The weeks before graduation were filled with preparation. I worked with Professor Winters to perfect my speech, practiced it dozens of times, and even bought a new dress for the occasion with my meager savings. I imagined standing at the podium, seeing my family's proud faces in the crowd, finally being the center of attention for an achievement that could not be diminished. I sent multiple reminders about the ceremony details. I reserved 5 seats in the family section for Mom, Dad, Sarah, Dylan, and Grandma Rose, who had always shown me special attention. Dad assured me they would all be there. We would not miss it for the world, he promised during our last phone call before the big day. I believed him. Despite years of evidence to the contrary, I believed him because I needed to. I needed to believe that this time would be different, that this achievement was significant enough to make me visible to them. The morning of my graduation dawned bright and clear. I woke up at 6, too nervous and excited to sleep any longer. I carefully styled my hair, applied makeup, and put on the new dress I had purchased for the occasion, a professional-looking navy blue dress that I hoped would make me look confident and mature. Over it, I would wear the black graduation gown and cap decorated with my psychology honor cords. "You look amazing," Olivia said when she emerged from her room. She was already dressed for the ceremony in a floral dress and heels. "Your family is going to be so proud." "I hope so," I replied, checking my phone for any messages. There were none from my family yet, but it was still early. I sent a quick text to the family group chat. "Good morning, so excited to see you all at graduation today. The ceremony starts at 1100, but please try to arrive by 1030 to find your reserved seats. Look for the section marked Family of Graduates and give them my name." Mom responded almost immediately. "We are getting ready now. See you soon, honey." I felt a wave of relief. They were coming. I texted Olivia's mother as well, thanking her for planning to attend. Olivia's parents had become like a second family to me over the years, always including me in holiday celebrations when I could not go home. As I put the final touches on my appearance, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Can't wait to see you before we head back for the barbecue. Mom is making her famous potato salad right now to bring." A flicker of worry crossed my mind. Why was Mom making potato salad now if they were about to leave for my graduation? I pushed the thought away. They had promised to be there and I had to trust that. Olivia and I arrived at the university auditorium at 9:30. As one of the student speakers, I needed to be there early for a final briefing. The staff gave me instructions on when to approach the stage and where to stand. I peeked through the curtains at the auditorium, which was still mostly empty but would soon fill with proud families and excited graduates. By 10:30, graduates and families were streaming in. I kept glancing at the entrance, looking for my family's familiar faces. Olivia stayed with me backstage as long as she could before going to meet her parents and save them seats. "Text me when your family arrives," she said, squeezing my hand. "I will make sure they find their seats." At 10:45, I sent another text. "Are you close?" The ceremony starts in 15 minutes, and they are asking families to be seated. No response. At 10:55, with just 5 minutes until the ceremony, I called home. No answer. I called Dad's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. I tried Mom, Sarah, even Dylan. Nothing. My heart raced as the graduation coordinator gathered the student speakers. "It is time to take your places," she announced with a bright smile. "My family isn't here yet," I said, my voice small and tight. Her smile faltered slightly. "I am sure they will arrive soon, but we need to start on time. You will be the third speaker after the dean and the valedictorian." I took my place with the other speakers, my eyes never leaving the entrance doors. The ceremony began with a processional as graduates filed in and took their seats. The dean welcomed everyone with a warm speech about achievement and future possibilities. The valedictorian spoke eloquently about perseverance and friendship. And then it was my turn. As I walked to the podium, I scanned the audience desperately. The 5 reserved seats in the family section remained empty. Olivia and her parents sat nearby, her mother giving me an encouraging smile, but the people I most wanted to see were absent. I delivered my speech through a fog of disappointment. I had practiced for weeks, but now I barely heard my own words as I spoke about resilience and finding strength in adversity. The irony was painful. When I finished, the applause felt hollow. After the speeches, we proceeded with the diploma ceremony. When my name was called Alicia Marie Thompson, Bachelor of Science in Psychology, summa cum laude, I crossed the stage with a practiced smile. I shook hands with the dean, accepted my diploma, and moved the tassel on my cap from right to left. I looked out at the audience one more time, hoping for a miracle. The empty seats mocked me. After the ceremony, graduates flooded the lawn outside the auditorium, embracing parents and posing for photos. Olivia found me standing alone, clutching my diploma. "They never came," I said, my voice breaking. "I am so sorry, Alicia." Olivia hugged me tightly. "Their loss. You were brilliant up there." Her parents approached, offering congratulations and insisting on taking photos of us together. "We are so proud of you both." Olivia's mother said her kindness, making my throat tight with unshed tears. As we posed for pictures, a classmate approached. "Great speech, Alicia. Are your parents here? I would love to meet them." "They could not make it," I replied, the practiced excuse coming easily to my lips. "Oh, that is too bad," she said, looking genuinely disappointed for me. "Family emergency." "Something like that," I murmured. When I checked my phone during a quiet moment, I saw Sarah had posted photos on social media. They showed my family at her barbecue party smiling and enjoying themselves. The timestamp indicated the photos were taken during my graduation ceremony. Mom was serving her potato salad, Dad was grilling burgers, Dylan was playing frisbee with Sarah's friends. And Sarah was the center of attention as always. They had not even tried to come. The barbecue had not started at 4 as Sarah had claimed. It had started at 11 exactly when my graduation began. They had lied to me. For the first time in my life, I felt something beyond disappointment. I felt rage. Just as I was about to put my phone away, it buzzed with a text message from Mom. "We need to talk urgently." My thumb hovered over the message. What could possibly be so urgent now? Where was this urgency when I was standing alone at my graduation? Before I could respond, I noticed something else. 36 missed calls from Sarah, all within the last hour. 36. The sheer number was baffling. What could be so important that she would call that many times in succession? "What is it?" Olivia asked, noticing my expression. I showed her my phone screen. 36 missed calls from Sarah and this cryptic message from Mom. Olivia's eyebrows shot up. 36? That is insane. Are they okay? They were fine enough to have a barbecue during my graduation, I said bitterly. I saw the photos Sarah posted. My phone buzzed again with a text from Dad. "Call home as soon as you get this. Important family matter." Then another from Dylan. "Sis, you need to call Sarah ASAP. She is freaking out." I felt a twist of anxiety in my stomach. Despite my anger, a lifetime of conditioning made me worry. What if something had happened after those photos were taken? What if there was an actual emergency? "What should I do?" I asked Olivia. She considered for a moment. "If you call now, you are letting them off the hook for missing your graduation. They should be apologizing to you, not demanding you call them." She was right. Whatever crisis they were experiencing, they had made their priorities clear. My graduation had not been important enough for them to attend, so their emergency was not important enough for me to interrupt my celebration. I will deal with it later. I decided putting my phone on silent and slipping it into my purse. Right now, I want to enjoy what is left of my graduation day. Olivia's parents took us to a nice restaurant for a celebration lunch. They toasted my achievement, asked thoughtful questions about my speech, and treated me like someone worth celebrating. It was bittersweet experiencing what a supportive family looked like, while acutely aware of what I had missed with my own. Throughout lunch, I could feel my phone vibrating occasionally in my purse. I ignored it, focusing instead on the conversation and the delicious food. For 2 hours, I pretended everything was normal, that this was exactly how I had imagined my graduation day. After lunch, Olivia and I returned to our apartment. As soon as we closed the door behind us, I sank onto the couch, emotional exhaustion hitting me all at once. "Do you want to see what the emergency is?" Olivia asked gently. I nodded and pulled out my phone. 8 more missed calls from Sarah, 4 from Mom, 3 from Dad, a string of increasingly frantic text messages. "Alizia, call me back right now, Sarah. This is serious, honey, please call. Mom, your sister needs to speak with you urgently. Dad, why aren't you answering Sarah?" "They sound panicked," I said, my anger now mingled with confusion. "But why? The photos from the barbecue looked perfectly fine." Olivia sat beside me, scanning the messages over my shoulder. "Whatever it is, they chose to be at that barbecue instead of your graduation. Remember that." I took a deep breath and called Olivia my rock. This is crazy. First, they completely ignore my graduation, and now they are blowing up my phone like there is some massive emergency. I feel like I am being manipulated somehow. "That is because you probably are," Olivia replied. Sarah has always known how to create drama that puts her at the center of attention. This has her fingerprints all over it. I knew Olivia was right. This was Sarah's pattern. Whatever was happening, I refused to be pulled into her chaos today of all days. I am not calling them yet, I decided. I am going to take a shower, change clothes, and process everything that happened today. They can wait a few more hours. "Good for you," Olivia said approvingly. "Set some boundaries." I took a long, hot shower, letting the water wash away some of the day's disappointment. As I stood under the spray, I tried to sort through my jumbled emotions, the hurt of being forgotten yet again, the anger at their blatant disregard for a milestone event in my life, the confusion about their sudden, urgent messages, and underneath it all, a small, persistent voice wondering if something was truly wrong. After my shower, dressed in comfortable clothes, I sat on my bed and stared at my phone. Despite my resolve, I felt the familiar pull of family obligation. What if someone was hurt? What if there had been an accident after those social media photos were taken? But another part of me, a stronger part that had been growing during my years away at college, held firm. They had made their choice. They had chosen Sarah's barbecue over my graduation. Whatever crisis they were experiencing now, it could wait until I was ready to deal with it. I texted a single message to the family group chat. "I am fine. We'll call tomorrow. Celebrating my graduation with friends tonight." Almost instantly my phone rang. "Sarah." I declined the call. It rang again. "Mom." I declined again. A text from Dad. "This cannot wait until tomorrow. It involves you directly." That gave me pause. What could possibly involve me directly when I was 3 hours away, unless... A cold realization washed over me. What if they had discovered something about me? What if Sarah had gone through my old room and found my journals? Or what if someone had told them something about me that was not true? My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. The uncertainty was worse than knowing. After 20 minutes of speculating, I made a decision. "I am driving home," I told Olivia, emerging from my room. "I cannot handle this weird suspense. I need to face whatever this is directly." Olivia looked concerned. "Are you sure?" "It is a 3-hour drive and you are emotionally drained." "I am sure," I said, grabbing my keys. "I will not be able to rest until I know what is going on, and I would rather confront them in person than over the phone." "Then I am coming with you," Olivia declared, grabbing her purse. I shook my head. "I appreciate that more than you know, but I need to do this alone. This is between me and my family." Reluctantly, Olivia agreed to stay behind but made me promise to call her if things got too intense, and pull over if you get too upset to drive safely, she insisted. The 3-hour drive gave me plenty of time to think. By the time I turned onto the familiar street of my childhood home, my initial confusion had hardened into determination. Whatever was waiting for me, I would face it on my own terms. I parked my car across the street from my parents' house, taking a moment to observe the scene before making my presence known. Despite the supposedly urgent situation, the barbecue appeared to be still in progress. Cars lined the driveway and street. Music drifted from the backyard, along with the sound of laughter and conversation. Some emergency, I thought bitterly. Taking a deep breath, I exited my car and walked up the familiar path to the front door. I could have gone around to the backyard gate, but I wanted the slight formality of entering through the front. I was a guest now, not a resident. I rang the doorbell instead of using my key. Dylan opened the door, his eyes widening in surprise. "Alizia, you are here." He looked both relieved and uncomfortable. "Apparently there is an urgent situation," I said, my voice neutral. 36 missed calls from Sarah seemed excessive even for her. Dylan glanced over his shoulder before stepping onto the porch and partially closing the door behind him. "Listen, before you go in, you should know that Sarah is really upset." "Sarah is upset," I repeated incredulously. "She should be. She deliberately scheduled her barbecue to conflict with my graduation and then lied about the timing." Dylan's brow furrowed in confusion. "What?" "No, that is not it. She says you told everyone the graduation was next weekend. She has been trying to reach you all day because she found out today was actually the ceremony and thought you must be devastated that everyone missed it." I stared at him, momentarily speechless. "Dylan, that is completely false. I have been reminding everyone for months that graduation was today. I sent multiple messages. We discussed it during family calls. How could you possibly believe I said it was next weekend?" Before Dylan could respond, the front door swung open, fully revealing Mom. Her expression cycled rapidly from surprise to relief to something that looked oddly like guilt. "Alizia, thank goodness you are here." She stepped forward as if to embrace me, but I stepped back, maintaining distance. "I understand there is an emergency that involves me directly," I said coolly. "That is the only reason I drove 3 hours after my graduation ceremony that none of you bothered to attend." Mom's face fell. "Honey, there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Sarah told us you had changed the date. She showed us a text from you saying graduation was next weekend." "I never sent any such text," I said firmly. "And even if there was confusion about the date, none of you bothered to check with me directly. Not one of you called this morning to confirm." The sound of the back door sliding open interrupted us, and Sarah appeared in the hallway. Her eyes were red as if she had been crying, but she looked more angry than upset. "Oh, so now you decide to show up," she said accusingly. "After ignoring all my calls and making everyone worry." "Sarah," Mom said warningly, "let us discuss this calmly." I fixed my gaze on Sarah. "Show me this text I supposedly sent about changing my graduation date." Sarah hesitated, then pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages before holding it out to me. There it was, a message that appeared to come from my number. "Hey everyone, just letting you know my graduation date got moved to next Saturday at 2 p.m. The 15th did not work for some faculty members." I stared at the message in disbelief. "I never sent this. This is not from me." "It came from your number," Sarah insisted. "Let me see," Mom said, taking the phone. She studied the message, her expression troubled. Dad appeared from the living room, his face serious. "Alizia, we have been trying to reach you all day." When Sarah realized the ceremony was today, we were very concerned. Concerned enough to continue the barbecue, I asked, pointedly gesturing toward the backyard, where guests could still be heard enjoying themselves. Dad had the grace to look embarrassed. "We had already committed to hosting, and we thought you had changed the date." I turned back to Sarah. "How exactly did you realize today was my actual graduation day?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Olivia's mom mentioned it in a comment on my Instagram post. She wrote something like, 'Sad to miss you at Alizia's graduation today,' and I realized something was wrong. And instead of immediately calling me, you called me 36 times without leaving a single voicemail explaining what was going on," I asked incredulously. "I panicked," Sarah exclaimed. "I thought you would be devastated that we all missed it because of my barbecue." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That is the first accurate thing you have said. I was devastated. I stood on that stage looking for my family, and all I saw were empty seats." Mom reached for my hand. "Alizia, we are so sorry. If we had known." I pulled my hand away. "But that is just it. You should have known. I have been talking about this date for months. And even if you somehow believed I had changed the date, not one of you thought to verify it with me directly. You just took Sarah's word for it." A heavy silence fell over the room. Dylan looked at the floor. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. And Sarah's expression was the most revealing. Behind the facade of distress there was something else. A flicker of defiance, perhaps even satisfaction. Suddenly the pieces clicked into place. "You sent that text," I said, staring at Sarah. "You spoofed my number and sent a fake message to everyone." "That is ridiculous," Sarah sputtered, but her face had gone pale. "Why would I do that?" "Because you always have to be the center of attention," I replied, my voice steady despite the anger churning inside me. "You could not stand that for one day the focus would be on me instead of you." Alizia, Dad interjected. "That is a serious accusation. I am sure Sarah would never deliberately." Actually, Dylan spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. "I saw Sarah using some weird app on her phone last week. When I asked what it was, she said it was for pranking friends by making texts look like they came from someone else." All eyes turned to Sarah, whose expression had transformed from fake distress to genuine panic. "It was not like that," she insisted. I had already planned the barbecue, and then I remembered your graduation was the same day, and I just wanted both to happen without drama." "So you created a massive lie instead?" I asked incredulously. It was not supposed to be a big deal, Sarah cried. I thought you would just have your graduation next weekend and everything would be fine. Not a big deal, I repeated, my voice rising. My college graduation, where I was chosen as the student speaker, was not a big deal. Do you have any idea how hard I have worked for this moment? Sarah, Mom said, her voice uncharacteristically stern. Did you really do this? Sarah's composure cracked. Fine, yes, I sent the text. But only because I had already announced my barbecue and it was important. Jason's parents came all the way from California, and I was going to announce our engagement. Engagement, Mom gasped. You and Jason are engaged. And just like that, the focus shifted back to Sarah. Her revelation had its intended effect, diverting attention from her deception to her news. We were going to announce it today, Sarah said suddenly, looking more excited than distressed. He proposed last week and we wanted to tell everyone at the barbecue. Oh, honey, that is wonderful news, Mom exclaimed, moving to embrace Sarah. I stood there watching in disbelief as my mother congratulated the daughter who had just admitted to deliberately sabotaging one of the most important days of my life. Are you serious right now? I asked, my voice cutting through their moment. Sarah just admitted to lying to all of you, causing you to miss my graduation, and your response is to congratulate her on her engagement. Dad finally seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Sarah, what you did was wrong. Very wrong. I know, Daddy, Sarah said, her voice small and contrite. I made a mistake. I was not thinking clearly because I was so excited about the engagement. It was not a mistake, I corrected her. A mistake is accidentally writing down the wrong date. What you did was calculated and deliberate. You intentionally made sure our entire family would miss my graduation. She did not mean any real harm, Dad said, falling into his familiar pattern of defending Sarah. She made a poor choice, but she is obviously sorry. Is she? I challenged, looking directly at Sarah. Are you actually sorry? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Sarah's expression hardened slightly. I said I was sorry. What more do you want? It is just a graduation. You can still celebrate with us. We can do something special next weekend. Just a graduation, I repeated, the words hanging in the air. 4 years of working 2 jobs while maintaining a 4-point GPA. Being selected as the student speaker out of thousands of graduates. Walking across that stage completely alone while you all enjoyed hamburgers and announced your 3-month relationship is now an engagement. Elysia, Mom began, her tone placating. We understand you are upset. No, you do not understand at all, I interrupted. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern that has existed my entire life. Sarah creates drama, you all cater to her, and I am left picking up the pieces or being forgotten entirely. That is not fair, Dad protested. We have always supported both of you girls equally. I laughed outright at that. Equally, Dad, you missed my high school graduation for Sarah's dance recital. You forgot my 20th birthday because Sarah had a fender bender that same day with no injuries and minor damage. You paid for Sarah's spring break trip to Cancun, but told me I needed to earn my own way through college. Those were different circumstances, Dad said defensively. Sarah needed us in those moments. And I did not. I asked, my voice breaking slightly. I did not need my family at my college graduation, the first person in our extended family to graduate with honors. No one had an answer for that. Dylan looked deeply uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Mom seemed torn, glancing between Sarah and me as if unsure where her loyalties should lie. Dad maintained his protective stance near Sarah, who had managed to make herself look like the victim despite being the perpetrator. In that moment, I saw my family with perfect clarity for perhaps the first time. This dynamic was never going to change. Sarah would always be the sun around which our family orbited, and I would always be relegated to the shadows, expected to understand, to forgive, to accommodate. I cannot do this anymore, I said quietly. I cannot pretend this is normal or healthy. Sarah deliberately sabotaged one of the most important days of my life, and none of you seems to truly grasp how devastating that is. Elysia, do not be so dramatic, Sarah said with an eye roll. It is not like I ruined your life. It was one day. It was my day, I replied. my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. The one day that should have been about celebrating my achievements, and you could not stand that. I turned to leave, suddenly desperate for fresh air and distance from these people who claimed to love me but could not see me. "Where are you going?" Mom called after me, her voice tinged with panic. "Back to my apartment," I said without turning around. "I need space from all of you right now." "But we need to talk this through," Dad insisted. "As a family." I paused at the door and looked back at them. A family supports each other. A family celebrates each other's achievements. A family does not lie and manipulate to ensure one member always gets the spotlight. When you are ready to be that kind of family, let me know. I walked out, closing the door firmly behind me. As I reached my car, I heard the front door open again, and footsteps hurrying down the path. I turned to see Dylan approaching. "Alicia, wait," he called. "I am sorry. I should have said something sooner. I knew Sarah was acting weird about your graduation, but I did not put it together until now." I looked at my younger brother, seeing genuine remorse in his eyes. "Why did you not stand up for me in there?" I asked. Dylan looked down. "I do not know, it has always been easier to go along with Sarah than to stand against her. Mom and Dad always take her side anyway." "That is the problem, Dylan. Everyone finds it easier to give Sarah what she wants than to do what is right." He nodded, unable to deny the truth of my words. "What are you going to do now?" "I am going to focus on building a life where I am valued," I said simply. "Where my achievements matter, and where the people around me are honest." As I drove away, I glanced in my rearview mirror. Dylan stood in the driveway watching me leave. Behind him, through the front window, I could see Sarah gesturing animatedly, already reclaiming her position as the family's main character. After 3 hours of driving and emotional turmoil, I arrived back at my apartment just after midnight. Olivia was waiting up for me, worried sick after my brief updates via text. I collapsed onto our couch, physically and emotionally exhausted. "What happened?" she asked, placing a mug of hot tea in my hands. I recounted the entire confrontation, Sarah's deliberate deception, and my family's tepid response. By the time I finished, Olivia was fuming. "That is beyond messed up," she declared, "and they wonder why you are upset. They should be groveling for forgiveness." The worst part is that even after Sarah admitted what she did, the focus still shifted to her engagement announcement, I said, cradling the warm mug. "It is like I am invisible in my own family story." Olivia squeezed my shoulder. "So what are you going to do now?" I took a deep breath. "I need some distance. Real distance, not just physical miles. I need to figure out who I am outside of this toxic family dynamic." That night I slept in fits and starts, my dreams filled with empty auditoriums and faceless families. By morning, my phone showed 17 new notifications, texts, and voicemails from Mom, Dad, and even Dylan. Notably absent was any message from Sarah. I ignored them all and focused instead on an email that had arrived during my drive home. The Preston Behavioral Health Center, a respected mental health facility in Seattle, wanted to interview me for a research position based on Professor Winter's recommendation. The interview was scheduled for the following week via video conference. "Seattle," I mused aloud over breakfast with Olivia. "That is about as far from Boston as I could get without leaving the country." "Are you seriously considering it?" Olivia asked. "I am," I replied, feeling more certain with each passing moment. "I need a fresh start somewhere I can build my career and my life on my own terms." I spent the day preparing for the interview, grateful for the distraction from family drama. I researched the Preston Center, thoroughly updated my resume, and emailed Professor Winters to thank her for the recommendation and ask for any advice. Her response came quickly. "Alicia, they would be lucky to have you. Your research on family dynamics and resilience is exactly what they are looking for. Be yourself and speak confidently about your work. By the way, how was graduation? I was sorry I could not attend due to my conference." My throat tightened as I typed my reply, briefly explaining what had happened. Professor Winters called me almost immediately after receiving my email. "That is absolutely unacceptable," she said, her usual calm demeanor replaced by indignation on my behalf. "I am so sorry you experienced that, especially after all your hard work." Her validation meant more than I could express. Unlike my family, she saw my worth without me having to constantly prove it. "The Preston Center is an excellent opportunity," she continued. "If you want this fresh start, I will do everything I can to help you secure the position." With Professor Winter's guidance, I spent the next several days preparing for the interview. I created a presentation on my research, practiced answers to potential questions, and focused all my energy on this possible new beginning. Meanwhile, my phone continued to accumulate messages from my family. I finally sent a brief text to the family group: "I need space right now. Please respect that. I will reach out when I am ready to talk." Mom responded immediately: "We are worried about you, honey. Please just let us know you are okay." I replied with a simple "I am fine," and then silenced the conversation. The day of the interview arrived. I wore my navy blue graduation dress, a small act of reclamation. The interview panel consisted of 3 professionals from the Preston Center, including the director, Dr. Lawrence Chen. As I presented my research on family dynamics and resilience, I drew subtly from my own experiences without making them the focus. When asked about my interest in their particular approach to treatment, I spoke passionately about creating safe spaces for people to heal from family trauma and develop healthy boundaries. "Your perspective on the long-term effects of parental favoritism is particularly insightful," Dr. Chen commented. "Where did your interest in this specific area originate?" I took a deep breath. My research is informed by both academic study and personal observation. I believe that understanding these dynamics from multiple perspectives allows for more comprehensive treatment approaches. The interview lasted 90 minutes, ending with Dr. Chen asking when I would be available to start if offered the position. "I could relocate to Seattle within a month," I replied without hesitation. 2 days later, while Olivia and I were having dinner, my phone rang with a Seattle area code. I answered with trembling hands. "Alicia. This is Lawrence Chen from Preston Behavioral Health. I am pleased to offer you the research associate position we discussed." I accepted on the spot. The salary was generous, the work aligned perfectly with my interests, and most importantly, it represented a completely new chapter in my life. That evening, I allowed myself to read through the accumulated messages from my family. Moms had evolved from worried to hurt to angry and back to worried. Dads were brief and increasingly stern, demanding I stop this childish behavior and discuss things like an adult. Dylan's were the only ones that showed any real understanding, acknowledging that I deserved space and time. Sarah had finally sent a single text. "I said I was sorry. You are overreacting as usual." With clarity and calm, I composed a message to each of them. To my parents, I explained that I had accepted a position in Seattle and would be moving within the month. To Dylan, I offered to stay in touch and suggested we develop our sibling relationship independent of our parents and Sarah. To Sarah, I simply wrote, "I hope your engagement brings you happiness. I will not be attending the wedding." The responses were predictably chaotic. Mom called in tears. Dad sent a lengthy email about family loyalty and overreaction, and Sarah posted a passive-aggressive social media update about toxic people who cannot be happy for others. Dylan alone responded with support, promising to visit me in Seattle during his upcoming spring break. As I packed up my apartment, donating most of my meager possessions and shipping only essentials to Seattle, I felt lighter with each box I sealed. Olivia helped me throughout the process, sad to see me go but understanding my need for distance. "You know what we should do," she suggested one evening as we sorted through kitchen items. "We should have our own graduation ceremony, just us and a few friends who actually care about celebrating you." The idea took root, and 3 days before my departure for Seattle, Olivia organized a small gathering at her parents' house. 6 people attended: Olivia and her parents, Professor Winters, and 2 classmates who had become friends over the years. Olivia's father made a speech about perseverance and character that brought tears to my eyes. Professor Winters presented me with a bound copy of my thesis, complete with her detailed notes on how it could be expanded into a journal article or even a book. We ate cake decorated with congratulatory messages, took photos, and celebrated not just my graduation but my new beginning. It was everything my actual graduation day should have been, filled with genuine love and recognition. As I looked around at these people who had chosen to be my support system, I realized something profound. Family is not just about blood relations. It is about who shows up for you, who celebrates your victories, who sees your worth without you having to constantly prove it. The day I left for Seattle, my parents made one last attempt to change my mind. They showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking somber and determined. "This is extreme," Alesia, Dad said, "moving across the country because of one misunderstanding." "It was not a misunderstanding," I replied calmly. "It was a deliberate act of sabotage followed by a complete failure to acknowledge how deeply it hurt me. And it is not just about graduation. It is about 23 years of being overlooked and undervalued." "We love you, Mom," insisted, tears welling in her eyes. "We have always loved you." "I believe you love me in your way," I acknowledged. "But love without respect and recognition is not enough. I need to be somewhere I can thrive, not just survive." They left without resolution, unable to understand that this move was not about punishing them but about saving myself. As my plane took off, carrying me toward my new life in Seattle, I felt a complex mixture of grief and hope. I was leaving behind the family I had always longed to truly be part of, but I was moving toward a future where I could define myself on my own terms. 1 year can change everything. As I sit in my apartment overlooking Puget Sound, watching the ferry boats cross the water against a backdrop of mountains, I barely recognize the person I was 12 months ago. The desperate need for validation from my family has faded, replaced by a steady confidence built on professional success and genuine friendships. My position at Preston Behavioral Health Center evolved quickly from research associate to project leader on a major study about resilience in young adults. Dr. Chen became not just a boss, but a mentor who values my insights and encourages my professional growth. Unlike my family, he notices when I contribute and acknowledges my work publicly. I have built a small but solid circle of friends here. Maria from the research department, Jason from the coffee shop downstairs, and Kira, my neighbor who teaches yoga, and convinced me to try it despite my initial reluctance. We have game nights, weekend hikes, and honest conversations. None of them make me feel like I have to earn their attention or affection. 3 months ago, I received an unexpected email from Dylan. His message was simple: "Things are falling apart here. Sarah called off her engagement last month. Mom and Dad are fighting constantly. Can we talk?" We scheduled a video call that weekend. Dylan looked tired, his usual easygoing expression replaced by one of concern. "Sarah found out Jason was cheating," he explained. "She threw the ring at him during a family dinner and announced the wedding was off. Since then, it has been chaos. Mom blames Dad for not seeing the signs. Dad says Mom put too much pressure on Sarah and Jason, and Sarah is basically having a meltdown every other day." "I am sorry to hear that," I said, genuinely meaning it despite everything. "How are you handling it?" Dylan shrugged. "I am staying out of it as much as possible, spending more time at school and friends' houses. But it made me think about what you said before you left, about how our family works. You were right, Alesia. The patterns are so obvious once you see them." "It took me years to see them clearly," I admitted, "and even longer to understand I could not change them." "I miss you," Dylan said simply. "You were always the stable one, the one who made sense." We talked for over an hour, really talked perhaps for the first time as adults, rather than as siblings defined by our family roles. By the end of the call, we had made plans for him to visit during his spring break. When Dylan arrived 2 weeks later, I showed him around Seattle, introduced him to my friends, and gave him a tour of the Preston Center. On his 3rd day over coffee at my favorite waterfront cafe, he asked the question I had been expecting. "Do you think you will ever come back? Or at least talk to Mom and Dad again?" I considered my answer carefully. I am open to rebuilding some kind of relationship with them eventually, but it would need to be different from before. I will not go back to being invisible. Dylan nodded thoughtfully. I get that. For what it is worth, I think they finally realize what they lost. Mom keeps your graduation photo on the mantle now, the one Olivia sent her. That evening after Dylan went to bed in my spare room, I received an email from my mother. The subject line read simply, "I am sorry." The message was longer and more reflective than anything she had ever written to me before. She acknowledged the pattern of favoritism towards Sarah, admitted that they had taken me for granted because I was the reliable one, and expressed genuine remorse for missing my graduation. "I do not expect you to forgive us right away, or perhaps ever," she wrote, "but I want you to know that I see now what we did, and I am deeply, truly sorry. Your father and I are in counseling trying to understand how we created such dysfunction in our family. If you ever feel ready to talk, we would love to hear your voice." I did not respond immediately. Instead, I took the letter to my own therapy session the following day. Yes, I had been seeing a therapist since arriving in Seattle, practicing the very principles I studied professionally. Dr. Amara had helped me work through my family trauma and build healthier patterns in my new relationships. "What do you want to do with this opening?" she asked after reading the email. "I am not sure," I admitted. "Part of me wants to maintain the distance because it has been so healing. Another part wonders if there could be a new kind of relationship possible now." "There is no rush to decide," Dr. Amara reminded me. "Healing happens on your timeline, not theirs." I waited another week before sending a brief response to my mother, agreeing to a phone call the following Sunday. When the day came, I set clear boundaries for the conversation in advance. 30 minutes, no Sarah drama, no pressure for visits or reconciliation. The call was awkward, but surprisingly productive. Mom did most of the talking, elaborating on her email and describing the family therapy they had begun. Dad spoke briefly near the end, his voice uncharacteristically humble, as he acknowledged his role in our dysfunctional dynamics. "I always thought I was being fair," he said, "but looking back, I can see how consistently we prioritized Sarah's wants over your needs. I failed you as a father, and I am sorry." I thanked them both for their apologies, but made no promises about the future. This was just one conversation, and patterns established over decades would not change overnight. Still, it was a beginning. 2 months later, I organized a small gathering at my apartment, what I jokingly called my do-over graduation celebration. Maria decorated with blue and gold streamers, Jason brought an elaborate cake from the bakery, and Kira presented me with a framed copy of my first published research paper. As we toasted with champagne, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother, "Thinking of you today. Proud of all you have accomplished. Love, Mom." It was a small gesture, but one that would have been unimaginable a year ago. The journey of healing is not linear, and reconciliation, if it happens at all, comes in small moments rather than grand gestures. The most profound lesson I have learned through all of this is that we cannot force others to value us, but we can choose to surround ourselves with people who do. Family is important, but it is not a life sentence to unhealthy dynamics. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to create distance from those who cannot see our worth, even if they share our blood. I have also learned that resilience is not about enduring mistreatment, but about having the courage to say no more and build something better. Every day that I wake up in this apartment, do work that matters, and spend time with people who genuinely care about me is a day I choose myself. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, know that you are not alone. Your worth is not determined by their ability to see it. You deserve to be celebrated, to be prioritized, to be loved, without having to earn it through constant achievement or accommodation. And sometimes creating your own chosen family is the most powerful act of self-love possible. What has been your experience with family dynamics? Have you ever had to set boundaries with loved ones to protect your mental health? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength after family disappointment. Share this with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you are worthy of being seen exactly as you are.